Okay, thanks everyone for being here today. I think it's a good day in the history of this organization. I want to announce a few key new hires. So first off, Chris Wallace, we're really excited to have him as a GM, now long term. And also Ed Stefanski, he's going to lead the player personnel. And we've also made a couple other hires that aren't here today. John Townsend, he's in charge of player development now, along with Trevor Mohad, who's going to work on the mental aspect of the game. And he comes from Alabama and Florida State football. So I think we're excited. We have a strong team. We rounded out, and I think we'll open it up for questions.
Who wants to go start? Matt?
Robert, Matt Stark from Fox 13. What made Chris the right guy this time around when there was obviously the change a couple years ago?
Right. So I would say over the past few months, I've really gotten to know Chris Wallace, and I'm just impressed. He's a great guy. Much like me, he's straightforward. Lots of integrity. And when you're looking at this team in Memphis, I think you got to look at the general manager in two respects, right? One is the basketball performance. The other one, what I've learned with Memphis in the past couple of years is this idea of community involvement, and everybody loves Chris in Memphis. And so you take, he's just like a special person for the Memphis community, and then you combine that with the fact that he really built the team. So you look at Zach and Marc and Mike and Tony Allen, it's his team. So we interviewed a lot and considered a lot of different candidates, and at the end of the day, we just came to the conclusion that Chris is the best guy for the GM spot.
Lee Smith for GreatGrinders.com. Question for, I guess, Chris and Coach Yeager. Can you talk a little bit about what you expect Mr. Moab to bring to the team in terms of, I guess, really addressing the intangible mental aspects of high performance?
Well, we put a priority on player development. Robert's a stickler for that, Dave, and all of us are. We feel that's a place to get an edge. And it's more than just working out in the gym and putting up shots and being in the weight room. It's a whole mental side that really hasn't been tapped into, an emotional side. And Trevor Moab has done a great job under Coach Nick Saban at Alabama for a number of years. Obviously, their record speaks for itself. And there's no coach in team sports in this country that's better at finding edges and tapping into them than Coach Saban. So you got to pay attention to what he's doing. Then he transitioned over to also helping Florida State this year. They won a national championship. So we've been, all of us, intrigued with this emotional, mental state of the game and coaching, and how can we improve that in our players and bring in someone who can help everyone communicate better. I mean, he just serves so many different areas and can enhance your team. So it was a natural to bring him in, and we're just really excited about that addition and can't wait to get started working with him.
I would to piggyback that, but before I do, congratulations to Chris and Debbie. This is a great move for our organization. We've got tremendous leadership with Robert and the direction and the vision that he has for us. And Ed Stefanski joining our family as well. It's a really good feeling and a good group of people that we can go forward with, arm in arm, sharing information and having each other's backs. Certainly there's going to be times where we disagree, and Chris and I have disagreed over the course of the last 7 years on different things, but then you get back in line and you go forward together, and that's something that I'm really excited about. I can't tell you how many texts and calls I've gotten from around the NBA about Chris and Ed as two of the most well-liked and well-respected people in the business. And to get these two guys together is absolutely a great step for our organization. Robert's leadership has really said, hey, let's give every resource possible to develop our players in whatever area, if it's nutrition, if it's the mental aspect, if it's getting the best workout guy that we can to help to maximize every single thing that our players can be in their potential as a component of this team. And he's done that, and that's we're really happy with where we are now. August 1st, we've got 15 guys on the roster. We've got John Hollinger in our management group as well, and we've got a good family of guys going forward, and we've got a good vision for where we're going to go and keep taking steps forward.
Michael Cohen from the Commercial Appeal. This question is for Ed. From afar, what did you see from the Grizzlies organization over the past few years that, when presented with the opportunity, you thought it would be an attractive place for you to come work?
Well, first of all, I'm happy to be here. I've known Chris since I've been in the NBA. Coach Yeager and I have known him, and he's come a long way from, and I respect what he has done. This is the first time I've come to a franchise that has players. Every place I've been, it's been a rebuild. And I really like the way what Memphis is to me, and I said this morning to Robert, is that they're a tough out every night because they're physical and they play hard, and this guy makes them play defense. So from that standpoint, I'm excited about it because we have a good group that Chris has put together, and now we have to keep tweaking at it and trying to get better. But the wings here are good. The trio of bigs, I would argue with anyone, as good as any trio of bigs in the NBA. So do we have to keep getting better? Sure, we have to work every day to get better. But this is an exciting franchise to come to.
Yeah, this is for Robert, Zach McMillan with the Commercial Appeal here. What lessons have you learned about being professional sports, owner of a professional sports franchise in general and also in Memphis? And to what extent did that guide decisions you've made going back to May with changing the leadership and putting this group together?
That's a good question. So I think anybody that's followed my professional business career, to be successful in anything, you're going to make wrong decisions, and it's kind of about how fast you have a self-reflection, sense of self-reflection, and you could look at what's going on, what's wrong, and you correct it. So I guess the situation that's unfolded over the past few months, it was just a matter of, I wanted the franchise to go in a certain direction. It wasn't going in that direction, and I took a step back and looked at, okay, what do we have to do to make it go in the right direction? And that's what these past few months have been about.
When you say it wasn't going the right direction, can you be a little more specific about that? In terms of you weren't moving quickly enough toward a championship, or just how it was being run?
Yeah, I think we had to put in place a strategy to get us closer to the goal of winning the championship. And if you look at the specific moves we've done, we've solidified the GM spot. We've filled the position of player personnel. We greatly improved our player development, especially with John Townsend, Trevor Mohat. Even on the strength and conditioning side, we've gotten much more serious. And I think you look at a place like Memphis, we're not going to be able to build a championship team by going into free agency and getting superstars like, say, the Miami Heat did or the LA Lakers did. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to find pieces. We're going to have to become the best team or one of the best teams in the NBA at player development and developing the pieces. And we're going to have a tight culture, which brings out the most out of our pieces, our players. And I think the last 3 months, if you look at the moves, it's specifically addressing those issues.
Chris Harrington, Commercial Appeal for Robert. How do you see lines of communication working in this setup? Is a lot of it going to flow through Chris, or do you see multiple lines of communication going directly to you?
Yeah, so I'm a big proponent of kind of having transparency within our organization and giving everyone a say. But I do realize you need to have some structure and some hierarchy, especially in the NBA. So as it stands, Chris Wallace is the general manager. He's going to make the final decisions, but things have to run by me for approval.
Lee Smith, Grit9Grizz.com. Robert, a couple years now as owner of the team. What's your definition of grit and grind? Not just for the team, but for the city.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think what's unique about the Grizzlies and what makes our identity is kind of we're a throwback team where we play with a lot of toughness, with a lot of heart. We don't take any nights off, and when it comes to playoff basketball, where you know, it's kind of a slugfest, and it's about defense and getting high percentage opportunities, you know, down low. I think we're a team that's built for the playoffs. So I don't think we've really reached our potential yet to just, you know, go through a playoffs and start steamrolling teams. And I think if you look at the Spurs, right, they've had some ups and downs and they stuck with it. They're very patient. So I believe this is a championship team, and we've had some ups and downs the past 3 or 4 years. I don't think we've realized our potential, and hopefully we're rededicating ourselves to building a better culture and addressing or improving the areas I've talked about. And I really think that this team has a good shot now to win a championship.
Chris Harrington again, for Chris and Ed. It's been reported that Ed's going to base out of Philadelphia. Could you confirm that, and then speak a little bit to the point of, you know, what the meaning of that is and the value of that is, and what Ed's role specifically will be in day-to-day operations relative to John Hollinger?
Well, Ed will be based out of Philadelphia, and that's a real advantage to us, Chris, to have someone in our front office on the East Coast, because there's so many games up there, so many teams, not just in college, but NBA teams, D-League affiliates up in the Northeast, so he can quickly get to a large part of the schedule that we have to cover much easier than we can down here. And as you know, the communication is so much easier today than it was in the past. You don't necessarily have to all be based in the same place, but he'll be in and out of Memphis frequently. Ed's an experienced NBA hand who's done a little bit of everything over the years. And in an NBA front office, we all chip in, are involved in all the processes that need to be addressed, which is scouting for the draft, international scouting, the D-League, evaluating free agents, recruiting free agents, trading, staying on top of the NBA. I mean, we're all involved in all of that. And John Hollinger has been a terrific addition to this team. I think he's just been fantastic, and his worth to us, it transcends just what he's known as an analytical guy. He's much more than that for us. So they're both going to chip in and along with myself and everyone involved and just address all the areas that have to be addressed and continually come up. And we're all basically under the same philosophy, Chris. We're looking under every rock every day to see, can we find a player that can add value to our team, find an edge. Players can help us not just now, but we've also got to be looking to the future as well and developing the teams that are going to be coming along down the line. So Ed's going to help us tremendously in that regard, and he's the only guy I know in the league that was a former 10th round draft pick too. So he brings that perspective as well. He can talk to the rookies about what it's like to be drafted.
Well, I was a second-tier point guard, but I was smart enough. I sat next to Chuck Daly at Penn for 4 years. So I learned a lot of basketball, and I am a gym rat. I love hoops, and as Chris alluded to, Philadelphia, where the realignment of teams, there's every big conference in the East Coast is in that area, and I'll be going to pro games and flying around to different places in the country to get better and hopefully find personnel that I can recommend to Chris, and I'll be here on a regular basis, come in to Memphis also. So from that standpoint, I think it's a perfect place to base yourself from where I'm going to be going and flying around.
And Chris, I'll make sure this is understood too. Ed's not just going to go see games in the East Coast. He's like all of us. You know, we go where the talent is. You know, whether it's in the ACC or Uzbekistan, it doesn't make any difference. In the NBA today, it's an international game. We're going to have about 19% of the league from the international ranks every year, usually around 35, 36 countries and territories. So you're on top of everything, no matter where you're based. And he has the expertise to do that. I mean, he's been very successful drafting international players. Christic, for example, he picked up, what was it, 25 with New Jersey. So we're just thrilled to have him. He's going to add so much value to our operation, and he's a terrific guy as well.
Well, and Serbia is beautiful in December and January.
Harry Anderson, WMC Action News 5 for Robert. There was a lot of talk with Dave, I know, about communication and where it stands. Do you feel like there's that open communication that you need that you maybe didn't have last year with Dave?
Definitely. I'll give you an example. I think last year we didn't even have one phone conversation. This year it's every week, we check in. So yeah, it's a lot better now.
Is that important for you to have that open line?
It's definitely important because at the end of the day, I'm responsible for the culture of the organization, so it's important for me to get information about what's going on with the team, understand the dynamics between players and player development, and you know, these guys are in charge, but I need information to make decisions, so yes, it's very important.
We have time for a few more. Zach?
Yeah, for Robert and Chris, Zach is signed on now for at least a few more years, and the big name out there that fans know, Marc Gasol, and he could be signed to an extension as early as December. How big a priority is he? And then, what's your philosophy in terms of sort of recruiting these guys, persuading them there's not other greener pastures out there?
Oh.
For Robert and Chris.
Okay, well, I think re-signing Marc Gasol is probably at the top, if not the top priority of the team. So, you know, I think we have a great relationship with Marc. I think he really likes the city, and we're going to do everything possible to make sure we have him here long term, and hopefully he plays out his career here, just like Dirk Nowitzki's playing out his career in Dallas. The second question is how do
you go about recruiting him, persuading him this is just what you said?
Well, I think it's a lot like my company, and how do you recruit top talent and retain them? First of all, you gotta make sure they feel appreciated. So yeah, with Marc, we try to tell him and make it known that he's the leader of this team, and he's the corner piece of it, and we need him. I think you also have to invest in his well-being. So in terms of player development and anything he needs to become a better player and make his life more convenient, you have to do those kinds of things. So you got to show respect, you got to show appreciation, and then Marc wants to win. So you got to win his confidence that you're committed to building a championship team, and you're not going to waste his prime years. And so that's kind of what these few months are about. It's just as much for Marc Gasol as it is for the community of Memphis, what we're doing here.
Zach, I reiterate what Robert said, and obviously this is priority number one for us, but if you go back, once we turned the corner as a franchise in 2011, we've been able to sign every key player that needed to be signed, and I'm confident that we'll be able to re-sign Marc Gasol. His roots are deep in this community, obviously going back to his Lausanne days in high school. He's blossomed as a pro player here with us, so to me, Memphis is the greenest of all pastures. Why would you want to go anywhere else? It is a fantastic basketball city. He's beloved here. We've experienced success. We're going to have more success. So we'll make that known to Marc, but I'm confident when it's all said and done that we'll resign.
Chris?
For Robert, it's also been reported previously that minority owners, Steve Kaplan, Daniel Strauss, have had their roles lessened in regard to representing the team league-wide. Are you able to confirm that, and what is your status relative to the minority ownership since you've taken on a more assertive role with the team?
I guess what I could say is that I'm really appreciative of our ownership group. I think they're great, especially the local ownership group. I believe after this conference we're going to a lunch and we're going to announce how the Grizzlies and the Grizzlies Foundation is going to invest even more so in the city of Memphis. So I'm really appreciative of the ownership group, and I look forward to ways I can partner with them to get more involved in improving Memphis and improving the school system in Memphis.
Two final questions. Jonathan and then Michael.
Jonathan May, 3 Shades of Blue. I know you've talked a lot, Robert, about wanting to expand some of the maybe lesser-known elements of player development. You brought in the middle strength and conditioning. Are there other positions still that you're looking to fill, or other elements of that program that you're still working to grow, or for now is this kind of the staff that you're going to have?
Well, we're always looking, and I think the way you get an edge in the NBA is specifically in player development. And so I think one important thing is shooting. You look at, like the Spurs have done great. Like they drafted Kawhi Leonard, who wasn't a great shooter in college, and they turned him into a great shooter. So I think the idea of looking at prospects that are great basketball players, but they don't have a great shot yet, is you know, a big opportunity for teams. So Dave, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the reason why we brought on John Townsend as Director of Player Development is specifically because he's a great shooting coach, and he's focused on that. And then I also think, you know, the mental aspect is a big part of the game. Like a lot of these players, they're not able to sleep properly because of the hectic travel schedule. A lot of them, you know, they could have confidence issues if they get into slumps. And so Trevor Mohad specifically addresses that. On the strength and conditioning side, I think, you know, if you have the right medical technology and the right strength and conditioning programs, it can make a big difference in players playing more games and extending their careers. Look at Vince Carter. He's older than me. He's 37. And he's still great. And so I think those are the things that, and you invest in player development, it doesn't count towards the salary cap, so it's a huge advantage. So, you know, with our moves, I think we've added between John Townsend, Trevor Mohad, we've also added several other guys in this inside the strength and conditioning program, and we're going to continue to invest in those things. And our goal is to become or be known as, you know, one of the best, if not the best team in the league that focuses on player development.
Michael Cohen from the Commercial Appeal. This question is for Robert. When you made your personnel decisions in May, there were a lot of things written and said about you and the way that the Grizzlies were run. Whether or not those things are true, I'm curious if you feel the league-wide perception of the franchise has changed in the last year, and whether or not there were things you had to do this summer to restore the perception among other teams in the league.
So what I learned running my company, Ubiquity Networks, is if you really want to be successful and win at the end of the day, you can't run your business based on perception and based on short-term perception. You have to have a long-term vision goal, and you can't get distracted by what other people say. You can't control those things a lot of times. What you can control is the outcome, right? So I think I had a Chris Burden interview several weeks ago, and I'll say the same thing I said then. You know, I'm perfectly fine on being judged on the results, good or bad. And I'm confident the moves we are making now are going to put us in position to achieve some things we haven't achieved before. So let's just, you know, see how things play out, and let's draw conclusions from those results.
All right, thank you, everyone.